Section 1. The Trillionaire Contradiction. Elon Musk has a plan to build factories on the Moon and Mars. But these won't be ordinary factories. They are designed to produce the fuel, metals, building materials, and replacement parts needed to create the first self-sustaining industrial civilization beyond Earth. If that sounds ambitious, Musk believes it is also the only path to building an economy far larger than anything our planet can support. Here is the contradiction that should make every economist nervous. Just weeks after SpaceX's IPO reportedly made Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire, the internet immediately started asking an even bigger question. A post from World of Statistics joked, Elon Musk needs another $998.9 trillion to become humanity's first quadrillionaire. Most people treated it as exactly what it was, a funny statistic with no deeper meaning. And honestly, it sounds absurd. A quadrillion is $1,000 trillion, about 11 times the annual GDP of the United States, or nearly a decade's worth of economic output from the entire planet. For anyone living on Earth today, that kind of wealth seems impossible. But Elon Musk had a different perspective. He replied, not impossible, but definitely requires factories on the Moon and Mars to achieve. That was not just a clever comeback. It was a surprisingly serious economic argument. Before we reveal how Musk plans to build these impossible factories, comment your prediction right now. Will humanity ever build a self-sustaining civilization beyond Earth? Section 2. The quadrillion-dollar question. Musk's point is simple. Earth is not large enough to support that level of wealth. The global economy produces roughly $100 to $110 trillion worth of goods and services each year. A personal fortune measured in quadrillions would require an economy many times larger than the one our planet can sustain. The only way to reach that scale is to expand industry beyond Earth. Instead of launching every ton of steel, fuel, and equipment from Earth, future settlements could manufacture much of what they need using local resources. Metals could be refined from lunar or Martian rock. Water ice could provide drinking water, breathable oxygen, and rocket fuel. Entire supply chains could exist without depending on constant shipments from Earth. But that raises an immediate question. How do you actually build factories based on local materials? The good news is that this is not science fiction anymore. Over the past decade, SpaceX, NASA, and researchers around the world have developed many of the technologies needed to build permanent industrial outposts beyond Earth. Put those ideas together, and a surprisingly clear roadmap begins to emerge. It does not happen all at once. It happens one step at a time, but that's not the biggest problem. Section 3. The first step. The first priority is simply finding the right place to build. On the Moon, that likely means the South Pole, where permanently shadowed craters contain water ice. On Mars, one of the leading candidates is Arcadia Planitia, a region believed to hide large deposits of ice beneath the surface. Robots equipped with ground-penetrating radar would map the terrain while autonomous construction vehicles level the first landing site. Once the location is secured, the colony needs power. Solar arrays could provide electricity during normal operations, while compact nuclear reactors would keep critical systems running through the long lunar night or Mars's planet-wide dust storms. At the same time, communication systems would connect the outpost with Earth and establish the first local infrastructure. Only then can the settlement begin to move beyond survival. Pressurized autonomous vehicles become mobile workshops, laboratories, and temporary living spaces as crews continue surveying the surrounding area and marking out the future footprint of the base. The real challenge was something nobody expected. Section 4. The turning point. Next comes one of the biggest milestones, using the planet itself as a resource. Machines begin processing local regolith. Some of it is melted into construction materials such as basalt glass and bricks, while magnetic separators extract iron-rich particles that can later be turned into useful metal components. With building materials finally available, the colony can construct its first permanent structures. Massive 3D printers gradually build habitats layer by layer using locally produced materials. Airlocks are installed, the interiors are sealed, and the first buildings become permanent homes rather than temporary shelters. Protection comes next. Because neither the Moon nor Mars has a thick atmosphere to block cosmic radiation, crews pile roughly a meter of regolith over the habitats, creating a natural radiation shield. Tunnels eventually connect different buildings, allowing astronauts to move safely without constantly putting on spacesuits. Once the base is protected, it can begin producing the two resources that determine whether the colony survives: water and fuel. Ice hidden beneath the surface is extracted and purified. Some of that water becomes drinking water and breathable oxygen. The rest provides hydrogen, which on Mars can be combined with atmospheric carbon dioxide through the Sabatier reaction to produce methane, the same fuel Starship is designed to burn. What happened next surprised even the engineers who designed these systems. Section 5. The manufacturing milestone. Now the settlement reaches a turning point. Instead of simply consuming supplies from Earth, it begins manufacturing its own. Iron extracted from the regolith is smelted into metal. Machine shops fabricate replacement parts, and eventually even components such as solar panels can be produced locally. Every part made on Mars is one less part that has to survive a journey of millions of kilometers from Earth. Finally, the colony begins to look less like an outpost and more like a permanent civilization. Greenhouses provide fresh food using hydroponic farming. Roads reduce the destructive effects of dust on vehicles and machinery. Landing pads and blast walls make spacecraft operations safer and more reliable. All these efforts aim to lay the groundwork for the early stages of life on these planets. To reach a true civilization, we need a properly functioning economy that generates wealth. And at this point, Musk added one more fascinating prediction. By then, I do not think dollars will be used as currency, just mass and energy. At first, that sounds almost philosophical, but in the early days of a space civilization, it may be the most practical way to think about value. Every habitat, spacecraft, factory, and machine ultimately depends on two things: matter to build with and energy to power it. Everything else is built on top of those two foundations, and that's where the situation became far more complicated. Section 6. The currency question. If that is true, then imagine buying something on Mars. You probably would not wire someone $10 million for a shipment of iron ore. You would trade the iron ore itself or the energy needed to refine it. In the earliest days of a space colony, the resource is the currency. That might sound futuristic, but it is actually how human civilization began. Long before coins and paper money existed, people traded what they had: grain, livestock, salt. The only difference is that on the Moon or Mars, today's grain might be a ton of regolith, a tank of methane, or a day's worth of electricity from a solar farm. But that raises an interesting question. If every civilization eventually invented money, why would Mars be any different? History suggests it probably will not be. Barter works when the settlement is small, but as a colony grows, trading becomes increasingly inefficient. Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. If you have iron and need food, you have to find someone who has food and also happens to need iron at exactly the same time. That is not much of a problem in a village of 50 people. It is a nightmare in a city of 50,000. As trade becomes more complex, societies naturally create something everyone agrees has value. That is how money emerges, not because people planned it, but because it solves a problem. So Musk is probably describing the beginning of the story, not the end. Section 7. The future of money. During the first decades of settlement, survival will matter more than finance. Water, fuel, metals, and energy may become the most valuable assets because they are essential for keeping the colony alive. But if one day Mars grows into a civilization with millions of people, markets will almost certainly evolve there just as they did on Earth. The currency may not be dollars, it might be tied to energy, local resources, or something entirely new. But whatever form it takes, people will still need an efficient way to exchange value. So perhaps the deeper meaning behind Musk's prediction is not that money disappears forever. It is that Earth's money stops being the money that matters. That is the real shift. Not the abolition of currency, but the decoupling of economic value from Earth-based systems. A quadrillion-dollar fortune does not come from selling more cars or launching more rockets. It comes from expanding civilization itself. And that expansion requires the ability to build factories on other worlds using only local resources. It requires the ability to manufacture fuel, metals, and replacement parts without depending on Earth. It requires the ability to create an economy that is not limited by the resources of a single planet. And that is exactly what Musk is proposing. Section 8. The End Game. At this point, the goal is no longer simply surviving in another world. It is creating an industrial economy that can sustain itself. And that is what makes Musk's tweet so fascinating. A quadrillion-dollar fortune does not come from selling more cars or launching more rockets. It comes from expanding civilization itself. The Moon and Mars are not just destinations. They are the foundation of a new economic system. A system where the resources of an entire solar system are available for human use. A system where the limitation is no longer the amount of stuff on Earth, but the amount of stuff we can extract and process in space. That is the vision, and it is closer than most people realize. The technologies already exist. The roadmap is already written. The only question is whether we have the will to follow it. Whether we are willing to invest the hundreds of billions of dollars required to build the first factories on another world. Whether we are willing to take the risk of sending humans to live and work in an environment that is trying to kill them every single second. Whether we are willing to bet on a future that is not guaranteed, but is possible. Section 9. The final question. The Moon and Mars are not just destinations. They are the foundation of a new economic system. A system where the resources of an entire solar system are available for human use. A system where the limitation is no longer the amount of stuff on Earth, but the amount of stuff we can extract and process in space. That is the vision, and it is closer than most people realize. The technologies already exist. The roadmap is already written. The only question is whether we have the will to follow it, whether we are willing to invest the hundreds of billions of dollars required to build the first factories on another world, whether we are willing to take the risk of sending humans to live and work in an environment that is trying to kill them every single second, whether we are willing to bet on a future that is not guaranteed but is possible. The first factories on the Moon and Mars will not be built by governments. They will be built by companies. And the first company to build a self-sustaining industrial civilization beyond Earth will not just be the most valuable company in history. It will be the company that changed the definition of value itself. And that question about building factories on other worlds has opened up an even stranger possibility. Because if we can build factories on Mars using local resources, what is stopping us from building them on asteroids? Click the video on your screen right now to find out why the first trillion-dollar company might not be on Earth at all.